Hello, friends. Welcome into Marriage Talk. It's great to have you with us. Thank you for being part of our extended family and subscribing to the podcast, both in audio form and on our YouTube channel, where you can watch each episode unfold. Bill Hobson here, along with Jay and Laura LaFoon. And all the information about their ministry is online at jayandlaura.com, and you'll get a link to that in the podcast notes. So if you're driving, don't feel the need to write that down. It's in the podcast notes. It's okay. And we're going to explore kind of the differences between loving somebody and liking somebody. Those are very different things. And we're not talking about the third grade playground relationship where check yes, do you like me? We're talking about, which I had some of those checkbox little slips of paper that I used to utilize. In fact, I don't know if you guys know this, but I was engaged to Angie, Angie H is her last name, back in like maybe second grade because she checked. I'm like, will you marry me? She checked yes. And then she reneged on it by
You're
like,
a young
I'm a little
player.
Casanova, like, yeah. And then she reneged on it very shortly thereafter. At a birthday party for me, she was helping herself to far too much candy out of the pinata. And I may have actually gotten a little physical in that moment because little Billy liked his candy. And as I found myself being put into a literal physical corner by my mom as my punishment for being very rude to one of my birthday party guests, I realized then that we probably would not end up together. And again, a devastating time. But back then, I figured if I like somebody, we should probably just be together forever. And thankfully, you get a little bit older and you realize that these things are not quite the same, loving and liking. And there are times I've heard directly from my wife, I do love you, but right now, I don't like you very much.
Thank you very much.
I would personally like to eliminate those moments. So I'm anxious to hear what you have to share.
Well, before we get there, I need to comment on your note passing because you were doing it by second grade. I didn't start till I was like a junior in high school because I was really shy with the ladies.
Yeah.
And it didn't go over well as a junior.
Check yes, check no, and you're hauled down to the principal's office for some sort of an
Yeah.
invasion of personal space.
Yeah, but this is you hit the nail on the head. We love our spouse, we're committed to our spouse. We're not saying we're anything contrary to that, but there are times when we just don't like our spouse, whether it's something they've said or something they've done. Laura says sometimes it's my mere existence, that's driving her nuts.
Well, I think what happens a lot in marriages today is that we become so busy as a couple with our work, our jobs, our volunteer opportunities, and we begin to have that time where we're not together anymore. And we begin to go, you know what, we don't really have anything in common. I still love you, but some of these things have just driven a wedge between us, and I don't really like you. You're not really my favorite person in the world. You're not we got married because we really found commonalities between us, things that we wanted out of life, where we wanted to be, some of those things that we had in common. But then life kind of gets in the way, and you begin to find that, you know what, I want something different than what you want. And we begin to let that drive a wedge. And then we are on these two different paths where we go, you know what, I still love you because you're human, but I really don't like you. And so therefore, let's just go our separate ways.
Yeah. Well, perfect example, early in our marriage, we fell in love like everybody else. And it was magical and it was wonderful. And then after the wedding, when we moved in together, I discovered that my wife is a slob. And I mean, she was really, and I am a neat freak. Okay. I'm
like obsessive compulsive.
Everything's got to be clean. And her idea of clean was to throw dirty clothes behind the door. Because you don't see them if they're behind the door.
With you there, Laura.
It's clean.
So we had moments going both ways. She didn't like how neat I wanted everything. I didn't like how sloppy she was. And we've really come to a nice compromise in the middle. In fact, it's
Now, I
interesting.
don't want you to think that his neatness was like, oh, he's just clean. No, there's like a,
Next level.
I would like my boxers ironed.
I ironed
Like,
my boxer shorts.
no,
Yeah.
That's
not
not clean. That's OCD.
yeah.
Anyway, so we've come
we're
to a
not even
nice,
talking about
oh,
clean.
right in
We're
the
talking
middle.
about like,
Yeah. So, but now we've figured that out. And that's a small illustration, but there were times where I would walk in the house and I didn't like what I saw. Therefore, I didn't like what she was doing. Therefore, I didn't like her because, these were direct acts. And this happens over and over and over in marriage because seasons change.
Yeah.
We got that figured out. Great. Now how can I stop my nose hairs from growing? Because they're really making Laura not like me. I don't like looking at you right now, because I look like a,
I just go get your tweezers.
yes.
But one of the ways that you can begin to like your spouse again, especially if you have found that your lives have kind of taken a divergent, is to find those commonalities again. It's
Or
almost as if
anew.
yes, when we were but when you're dating your spouse, you like everything that they like. If he's into this, you're into this. If she's into this, you want to show some interest. You might be pretending.
Oh, cool. Downton Abbey?
But
Really? Oh, cool. Yeah. Sounds great, dear. No.
But then it's almost like you stand at the altar and you say, I do. And you say, I don't have to like those things anymore because I've got you. You're with me. You're not going anywhere. And so we begin to find different likes and hobbies. It's one of the reasons I took up golf, was because Jay loved golf. He loved to play golf. And I thought, what, I at least need to understand. My dad played golf, but I never understood what the game was all about. I grew up in Georgia. It's the Masters play. You hear golf all the time. But I didn't understand the game. So
we sent her to golf
but
school.
I decided that I wanted to learn more about golf. At that point, I didn't really think I wanted to play, but I began to learn more, began to watch it. And then I was like, I think I want to learn to play this game. And he sent me to golf school. I went with a bunch of friends. I would not recommend having your husband teach you how to play golf. But I went with a bunch of friends and I love the game. And now it's like what we do in the summertime.
And she beats me on occasion. I mean, on a regular occasion, she will beat me.
I was gonna say more often than not.
Created a monster.
Yes.
But that's one of those things that I had to develop because it was something I knew he loved it.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, I need to learn how to play this game and learn more about it so we can have conversation about it. It became something that we have in common.
The other thing, just that has evolved, when we first got married, we were in youth ministry. So dinner was McDonald's, Arby's, Burger King, Taco Bell, boom, boom, boom. That was always dinner, was fast and on the run. And as now we had children, we needed to have healthier meals. Then we got packaged meals from the grocery store, that stuff that we could put the chicken nuggets in the oven. And but now Laura and I have developed, because we've got more time on our hands with the kids gone, a common love for cooking. And we will spend an hour in the kitchen together preparing a meal. And we love it because
and looking at recipes. And now I can get him to watch Food Network because he likes to know what the recipes are.
Because I'm a guy and I like to eat, it's just one of those things. And so looking for those commonalities, we've even gone to cooking classes before, just because that's something. Is it something that I'm desperately in love with? No, but I enjoy it. It's a 6 or a 7 on a scale of 1 to 10 for me, and as far as enjoyment. And when I'm doing it with her, that 6 or 7 turns into an 8 and a 9, because we're doing it together and we're enjoying each other.
And when you find those commonalities, it kind of leads into the second habit that you want to build. The second habit, in order to keep the love and not, and the like, is that you spend quality time together. I think the more time that you can spend with your spouse, you will have those moments of, I love you, but I don't like you, but you understand why. It's not like a permanent, I don't like you. It's you're doing something that's irritating me, and here's what it is. But
you're breathing again, Jay. You're breathing.
But you can't have those conversations if you're not spending quality time together, and those conversations aren't happening, because when they happen, when you haven't spent quality time together, it becomes an attack. It becomes more of you're a bad person, more than just right now, this habit that you have or whatever it is just irritating me.
Right.
Well,
that-
and there are those little flashes, hopefully they're little flashes and not extended patterns of unlikability that I could exhibit. I can be in a bad mood. I could say something that I did not intend to be hurtful, but it came across that way. Um,
And 9 times out of 10, it has nothing to do with your spouse.
right. Yeah. But you come across in a way that really just kind of makes you unattractive
Yep.
in every possible aspect. I have a friend who struggles with his drinking, and he and his wife are madly in love with each other. But when he gets into that space, he's downright unlikable on a number of different levels, both socially and certainly relationally from within that household. And I have heard her say, I really love him, but man, I don't like him when he's in that way. And I totally understand that. I totally get it. And so there are these behavioral things that we can do that would kind of thrust us into this category for whatever the period of time is of being flat out unlikable. And if if I say something that I am reminded hurts my wife, makes her sad or disappoints, I don't want to disappoint her, disappoints her. I'm not there yet, but I'm trying to be mature enough to say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it that way. I know that that didn't come out right, or just kind of having a level of awareness of when I can be terse, or I just don't want to be around any people anymore. And yet there are people coming by the house or whatever it is. I, I've got to, I say all that because I would like to encourage all of our listeners to have your own personal antenna up for your moments of unlikability, because I know my radar is really strong in detecting when other people are unlikable. It's working 100%. Don't need any more batteries in it. That radar functioning better than the warranty could ever suggest. But my self radar usually is not operating at 100% capacity.
And I would say this is not something to use on a regular basis, but there are probably times when, as a loving spouse, you need to say to your wife or husband, listen, I've had a lousy day at work. And if I say something that's going to hurt you tonight, please understand it's not against you. I'm just really, really upset right now, or I'm not in a good, this perfect example of this, Laura, probably 2 months ago,
It was
she-
after
it
Christmas.
was after Christmas. She's like, I'm sick. I don't feel well. And I will say something mean today. Get over it. I mean, and I'm like, okay, thank you for the warning.
Warning flare. Yeah.
That's right. But again, in a way, that's kind of being loving in that, I'm just, because we all have ups and downs. We all have those times when we're not likable. And so to say I can feel this coming is something that.
But in order to be able to have those conversations, you have to have had that quality time together. You have to know each other inside and out. And it leads into the third habit is personal growth. To be able to look at yourself and
Like you just
say,
said.
I know right now I'm not being a kind person and I apologize. Or giving the heads up that I am going to say something that's going to be mean today because it's just the mood that I am. It doesn't make it right, but it's that personal growth, that inner being able to look inside yourself and say, I know this is the way I'm being. I know it's wrong and I apologize. And that personal growth is the third habit in this. I love you, but do I like you?
And I can give you a perfect example of me doing it wrong. For many years, Laura would introduce a vegetarian dinner, and it was her way of trying to be healthy. And I would.
I've heard of this, but
Yes, it is. It's a phenomenon. It's weird. But I would gripe and moan. I would gripe and moan and gripe and moan and gripe and moan. Why do you do this to me? You this, and I
like my meat.
Right. I finally came to I turned the corner and I said, honey, I will try anything you cook, but I have to have the right to tell you that I don't like it without it hurting your feelings. And so just to set up little things like that where you.
And my response was, as long as you say it in a nice tone of voice.
you don't walk right over to the trash,
Right.
lift it and throw it in there.
The dog wouldn't even eat this,
Or one that I've heard over the years from my parents, who are unlikely to be listening to this, so I can get away with saying this. Um, you don't make that like my mom used to.
Oh, that's
That's
the kiss
not,
of death right
That's
there.
why I don't try recipes that his mom made.
yeah,
Nope.
it's not going to work on any level. You just cannot do it. So,
Yes, Jay, if you want sausage biscuits and gravy,
Ask your mom to make it.
or you're gonna make it yourself, because I'm not even gonna try.
well, so unlikability can fester,
Yes.
right? If not addressed and if not corrected, if not apologized for, it can build and build and build, and it can then spill over into maybe conversations you have with your friends about your spouses. And now it becomes dishonoring conversation where you're speaking poorly of your husband or your wife to people that A, didn't need to know any of these things that you're struggling with, and B, aren't going to be able to be a part of the remedy for it. It's now just becoming gossip, which is not honoring. And now that unlikability, the snowball starts to gather, and now it's heading down this mountain. And there's bad things that can happen at the bottom end of that avalanche.
And the real challenge that if you don't talk about these things, if you don't confess your sin to one another, you're right, that was unkind, and I'm sorry for that. That quickly, and I believe that's the word I want to stay with, that quickly can turn to resentment.
Mm.
Once there's resentment in a marriage, then you're really digging hard to recover that marriage.
And I think we have to understand as human beings and as individuals, we both have those moments. It's not one of you is worse than the other. It just reflects differently. It just flushes out differently. And I think what happens is when one of you is constantly, I don't like him, I don't like him, I don't like him, I don't like him because he does this and this and this and this, and you're talking to your friends and you're talking to your family or whatever, then you can't see your own faults. You don't see that you might be contributing to this in some way, shape, or form. And that's why it's so important that you have those things that you can do together, that you spend that quality time together so that you have those moments of, you know what, I do really like you because we really do have fun together, or we enjoy this or we enjoy that. And then you have those reflections of personal growth that say, you know what, I'm not perfect. I do this wrong, or I can see that I'm saying it this way. It all builds on top of each other.
And I think you've got to, again, it comes back to communication. You've got to build into your marriage times of serious conversation. There's no one in the world that loves to have a fun conversation more than me. I love to laugh and have, tell jokes and be funny, but serious conversations are part of life. And so one of the things that one of the best places for us, and again, this isn't for everybody, but for Laura and I to have serious conversations, is in the car. Our granddaughters live in Grand Rapids. It's an hour and a half from our home. It's a great opportunity to say, hey, you know what? How about we talk about this for the next hour and a half, or less if we can resolve it. But this is a real issue, and it doesn't always have to be with this is what you did or this is what I did. It could be this is where we're at right now, and how do we get beyond this? And it can be very, very powerful. But if you don't have that freedom to say, let's take a time out and talk strategy here, then
in one of our free ebooks that you can get on our website when you sign up for our newsletter, we talk about different rooms of the house where you have different parts of your marriage that happen, and the bathroom is the place where we have these tough conversations because you want it to be private. And when you think of the bathroom, you think of privacy.
And that really is what we were talking about. That we take it out of the bathroom and we take it to the neighborhood, and then we're talking to all of our friends about it, and it does no good there.
Right.
Well, and the other part that my mind is entering the Wayback Machine, and I'm hearing the voice of Terry Ladico from episodes way back at the very early days of the Marriage Talk podcast. And for those of you who are relatively new to what we're doing here, we're a couple hundred episodes into this thing over the course of a few years, but the first, I think, 4 years were co-hosted by Terry Ladico, a licensed counselor. He and his wife have Covenant Counseling in Midland, Michigan. And one of the things that he was really adamant about, or strongly encouraging, was to be very careful that when you encounter those moments of, I don't like her, or I don't like him because he or she is doing these things, be very careful not to ascribe your dislike for the activity to the value of the person.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So, but we'll take it back to the situation I shared a moment ago with my friends who struggles with controlling his drinking. I'm very thankful that I've never heard his wife say about him, he's just a complete loser. He's worthless. He means nothing. That's not it. The thing that she doesn't like is the behavior. And I think that's one of the indicators that she's maintained her love even while not liking some aspect of his life. And it probably, I think you could lay that template over all of the examples that we've given,
Yes.
whether it's I'm too sarcastic and I make snide comments. I'm thankful that that doesn't define me as a child of God. It doesn't define who I really am. Our previous episode was about leaving a legacy. I'm really hoping that in my world, that the legacy I'm leaving is a whole lot different than the things about my behavior that you don't like that much. So I'm hearing the voice of Terry kind of driving home. That's not your value. That's not your identity. Those are things that you can correct to become more likable. And in the
And more
meantime,
like Christ.
yeah, yes. And in the meantime, while you are not likable, it doesn't mean you're not worthy. It doesn't mean you don't have value. It just means you got some things to clean up.
Right.
Means you're human.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, that's good stuff. Anything else on your list, Laura?
I don't think so. I got them all covered.
And they're going to be in the show notes if you missed one of them.
Very good. You can find out all sorts of information about the ministry of Jay and Laura LaFoon. She mentioned a free ebook, and all of that stuff's on the website at jayandlaura.com. And again, we have that link in the podcast notes. We sure appreciate you all being a part of the Marriage Talk family and ask you, if you would, to share the link with other people in your world. Subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel. They're both free. I mean, it's the best value you're going to find. So just hit that subscribe button. And then every time we do a new episode every week, you'll be right in on the loop and stay up to date with everything going on. And one last little plug. If you or your church group, or maybe just a group of friends, would benefit from having Jay and Laura come in and do a coaching evening or a series, reach out to them through the website. That's part of what they do through their ministry, and can kind of, in a live setting with questions and answers and all that interaction, can bring all of this stuff right into your living room or your church fellowship center, whatever it happens, your basketball arena, whatever you happen to have for a venue. Or they might even be open to doing it at the Masters if you have tickets.
That's right. No question.
That's right. Hey, thanks for being part of Marriage Talk, folks. We'll see you again next time.